Proverbs mentions wealth more than any other topic in the Bible. And at first glance, it looks like it's all over the place. It looks like it's saying one thing here and another thing here. But we're going to dive into Proverbs and I'm going to show you how it all meshes together. I've read through all of the verses, all 31 chapters, and the information I found in there is riveting. I actually have my laptop back here. I have my handy dandy laptop with some notes that I made. So let's get right into it. One of the very first things we're told about wealth is found in Proverbs 3 and verse 9. And here's what it says: Honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruits of all thine increase. How do people dishonor God with their wealth? They spend, right, the money that God gave them, the ability to earn, on things that don't glorify the temple, on clothes that don't glorify the temple, on food that doesn't glorify the temple, or on entertainment that doesn't glorify the temple. Concerts of devil worshippers who put your money directly into their pockets, the money that God gave you, right? And so that's how we dishonor God with our money. But how can we honor God with our money on the flip side, right? It's important to give tithes and offerings, and just as important to honor the poor. Pattern number 2 that I recognize in the book of Proverbs is to get wisdom before seeking riches. God visited Solomon in a dream, and one of the things, God gave Solomon a blank slate. He was like, ask for anything and I will give it to you. And a lot of you would have asked for, what would you ask for? You'd have asked for a penthouse in New York. What would you ask for? You'd ask for a yacht. You'd ask for a yacht. You'd ask for, I don't know, a trip to Mali or Bora Bora or Jamaica. I don't know. You would ask for a brand new car. Some of you would have asked to live to be 900 years old or forever 21. But here's what the wisest man to ever live asked for, right? He did something a lot of us would have thought was strange. He asked for wisdom, understanding, and a discerning heart. And because he asked that, he was also given riches and honor, right? Here's what God replied to Solomon in 1 Kings 3, verse 11. Since you have asked for this is wisdom, and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have you asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. 1 Kings 3 verse 13. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that you in your lifetime will have no equal among kings. And if you walk in obedience to me and keep my decrees and commands, as David your father did, on top of all of that, I will give you a long life, right? And so, get wisdom before you get riches, because when Solomon asked for wisdom, we saw that he got riches, he got honor, and he got long life, because those things are attached to wisdom. Proverbs 3 verse 15 and 16. So we're still on the topic of how to get wisdom before seeking riches. So Proverbs 3, 15 and 16 says, she is more precious than rubies, and all the things thou canst desire are not to be compared to her. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor. So if you get wisdom, you automatically get length of days, riches, and honor. Wow. Because those things are what are in her hands. No wonder when Solomon asked God for wisdom, he was able to get all of these things, right? And this concept is repeated several times throughout the book of Proverbs. Just in case you didn't get it the first, the second, the third, or the 70th time, it's repeated. So Proverbs 8 verse 11 says, wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. Proverbs 8 verse 18 and 19, riches and honor are with me, yea, durable riches and righteousness. My fruit is better than gold, and my revenue than choice silver. Proverbs 16:16. How much better it is to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding rather than to be chosen than silver. So in all of these verses, we see the importance of seeking wisdom first and getting wisdom first. Pattern number 3 that I found in Proverbs: you cannot be lazy if you don't want to be broke, right? There's this entrepreneur I watch on YouTube, Myron Golden, and he's like 65 years old. And he said something that I haven't heard a lot of people say ever in life. And this thing that he said was, he is never going to retire. Like, he's 65 and he says he's not going to retire. And it reminds me of this one patient I had. This patient, Jewish man, pushing 90 years old, and he was still filthy rich. Let's add that to it. And he was still working. He is an accountant, right? And so during tax season, that man that's almost 90 years old is busy. And I think he works throughout the year, but then during tax season, people are, I don't know if people are hunting him down, but whenever he comes in, he's like, yeah, it's so busy, it's tax season. You can't be lazy if you don't want to be broke. So let's get to some of the verses. Proverbs 6, verse 10 and 11. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall thy poverty come as one that travelleth, and thy want as an armed man. Proverbs 10, verse 4. He become poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. The hand of the diligent maketh rich. Proverbs 12, verse 27. The slothful man roasteth not that which he took hunting, but the substance of a diligent man is precious. And sometimes I feel like this verse like literally holds me by the shirt and drapes me, because y'all ever went go grocery shopping and you buy all these groceries and you come home and you decide to order something instead of cooking what you just brought? Is it me alone? Like, tell me it's not me alone, right? But this verse says, the slothful man roasted not that which he took hunting. Proverbs 12, verse 27. But the substance of a diligent man is precious. And so one of the things I'm actively working on in this season is when I buy food, not to let it go to waste, because I don't want to be the slothful man, right? Proverbs 13, verse 4. Sorry. The soul of the sluggard desireth and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. Can't be lazy. Proverbs 14, verse 23. I just had dinner is what this is. In all labor there is profit, but the talks of the lips leadeth to penury. Proverbs 20, verse 13. Love not sleep. For all you sleepers out there, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou wilt be satisfied with bread. Open your eyes. You can't be sleeping. You can't be sleeping. Proverbs 21, verse 5. The thoughts of the diligent, opposite of lazy, tend only to Another verse, Proverbs 28 verse 19. He that tilleth his land, meaning he's not lazy, shall have plenty of bread. But he that followeth after vain persons shall have poverty enough. So if you're scrolling after, in today's day, I can imagine that's what following after vain persons mean, like literally consuming their lives, right? But he that tilleth his land, he that puts his hand to the plow, he that works shall have plenty of bread. So that was pattern number 3 that I noticed. You can't be lazy if you don't want to be broke. Pattern number 4. While God loves to see his children rich and prosperous, the riches should not become a God, common G, right? We should not put our trust in riches. A lot of people, they get rich and they like when they were poor, it's like, ooh, you ain't got our best days. But now that you get a little money, you start acting funny, right? But here's what it says in Proverbs 11 verse 4. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. Riches is not everything. That's pattern number 4. Proverbs 11 verse 28. He that trusteth in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. Proverbs 15 verse 16. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Proverbs 23 verse 5. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings, and they fly away as an eagle towards heaven. Riches aren't everything. And the last one, Proverbs 23 verse 5. Don't wear yourself out to get rich. So it's the same verse, because riches fly away like an eagle, right? Don't put your trust in riches. Pattern number 5. Deja vu. Pattern number 5. It is better to be righteous and of a good character than to be rich. Tiffany Montgomery, in one of her lives, says, her lives that she did, said, it is better to, riches only magnify who you are. So if you were like a monster poor, you'll be even like a bigger monster rich. But if you were like of good character poor, then that will magnify your good character when you're rich, right? If you're a generous poor, you'll be even more generous when you're rich. So riches magnify your character, right? So here's what the verses say. Proverbs 10 verse 2. Treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivereth from death. It's all about your character. Proverbs 16 verse 8. Better is a little righteousness than great revenues without right. Your character matters. Proverbs 19 verse 1. Better is the poor that walketh in his integrity than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool. Proverbs 19 verse 22. Better a poor person than a liar. It's better you be poor than you out here lying, right? Proverbs 21 verse 6. The getting of treasures by a lying tongue is a vanity tossed to and fro of them that seek death. Proverbs 22 verse 1. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, right? And loving favor rather than silver and gold. It's better to have a good name than to have that, right? While being of an excellent character and being rich, while having both of them is amazing, if I had to choose between the two for myself, it would be to have a better character. If I had to choose between the two for you, based on these verses, having a character holds more weight than the riches. They're both nice to have, don't get me wrong, but one just holds a heavier weight, and it's the character. Pattern number 6, do not neglect or despise the poor. I can usually tell a person by their character. If you are nasty to the janitor or to the cleaning person, or we're at a restaurant together and you're just rude to the waitress, we can never, ever, ever be friends. Like, though, not saying that these people are poor, but the way you treat people tells me a lot about you, right? Including the way how you treat the poor. So the pattern number 6 is do not neglect or despise the poor. Proverbs 14 verse 21. One who despises a neighbor sins. Blessed is one who is kind to the poor. Proverbs 14 verse 31. He that oppresseth the poor reproaches his maker, but he that honoreth him in my heart, right, hath mercy on the poor. Whoso mocketh the poor, Proverbs 17 verse 5, whoso mocketh the poor reproacheth his maker, and he that is glad at calamities shall not be unpunished. Proverbs 19 verse 17, he that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord. Still under the topic, do not neglect or despise the poor. Whoever ignores the poor's cry will also cry out unanswered. So you're telling me if you're like crying out to God for something, but you're ignoring the poor, you won't get an answer? That is something, right? Proverbs 21 verse 13. Oh, we just did that one. Proverbs 22 verse 9. He that hath a bountiful eye, I got 4 of them, shall be blessed, for he giveth of his bread to the poor. Proverbs 22 verse 16. Oppressing the poor to enrich oneself leads to poverty. Proverbs 22 verse 22 and 23. Rob not the poor because he is poor, neither oppress the afflicted in the gate. We're almost done with this one. Proverbs 28 verse 8. Wealth gained by exploiting the poor ends up with one who's kind to the poor. And last one, Proverbs 28 verse 27. He that giveth unto the poor shall not lack, but he that hideth his eyes shall have many a curse. Wow. Pattern number 7. Don't fall for the get-rich scheme. Proverbs 13 verse 11. Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase. Proverbs 20:17. Bread gained by fraud tastes sweet, but ends up like gravel, like literal sand in your mouth, right? Proverbs 20 verse 21. An inheritance gained hastily will not be blessed. You guys remember the prodigal son? He wanted his inheritance quickly, and then he went and spent it all off and had to be eating pig's food and came back home. Proverbs 28 verse 20. A faithful man shall abound with blessings, but he that maketh haste to be rich shall not be innocent. And last one, Proverbs 28 verse 22. He that hasteth to be rich hath an evil eye, and consider it not that poverty shall come upon him. Wow. The 8th and final pattern is the beauty of riches. Having riches is a beautiful thing. God wants his children to have riches. I don't know where we get this false doctrine that Christians need to be poor. That's not true. So let's start with Proverbs 10 verse 15. The rich man's wealth is a strong city, but poverty is the ruin of the poor. Proverbs 10 verse 22, the blessing of the Lord. This is one of my favorite all-time verses, right? It maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow to it. So if you're rich and there's some sorrow to it, consider that it might not have been from God, right? Who knows? Proverbs 11 verses 24 and 25. One gives freely and gains more, the generous prosper. Proverbs 13 verse 8. The ransom of a man's life are his riches. Proverbs 13 verse 22. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. The sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. So a good man will leave something for his grandchildren. Wow. Proverbs 14 verse 24. The wealth of the wise is their crown, right? Proverbs 18:11. The rich man's wealth is his strong city. Similar, like a verse we read earlier. Proverbs 19 verse 14. House and wealth are inherited from parents, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. I love that, like the prudent wife is included here. Proverbs 22 verse 4. Humility and the fear of the Lord brings wealth, honor, and life. These things are good things: wealth, honor, and life, right? And so it's not the beauty of it, it's the beauty of riches. It's not saying that it's a bad thing, right? Proverbs 31 verse 20. The wife of a noble character brings wealth or gain to her husband and extends her hands to the poor, right? And so there's a bonus in this. It was only 8 patterns that I noticed, but the bonus is Proverbs 6 verses 1 to 5. It's a warning against putting up security for another person's debt. So if somebody's like, oh, can you co-sign on my car for me, or can you co-sign on my student loans? The book of Proverbs advises against that. And you can read that in verse 6 on your own time. So the conclusion of this whole series of Proverbs is found in 22 verse 2. Rich and poor have this in common, that the Lord maketh them both. Whatever part of the spectrum that you fall on, make sure to get good godly character and put on Christ's robe of righteousness and believe on him so that you can be saved, because in the end, that is what matters most. Until next time, see you in the next video.